Nikki.
Hey, Selena.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to Sweet Tea and TV,
Hey, y'all.
where we celebrate Nikki's anniversary. Happy anniversary, Nikki.
Thank you.
To you
My
and
wedding
Kyle.
anniversary.
Yes. Happy anniversary to the planet. Which one?
You haven't romanced me enough today for it to be our anniversary.
Ah, yes. Okay. I'll bear that in mind. But I also thought that this could be a nice little segue into the main episode, but to first talk a little bit about what you did for your anniversary, because a little birdie called our friendship and our social media told me that you had a little something on your bucket list.
Yeah.
That came off.
We went to Key West, and we went specifically because I wanted to go to Dry Tortugas National Park, which is the most remote national park. It is 70 miles off the coast of Key West.
Yeah, good, because I know we've talked about it, but I needed some reminders on what made it significant and special. I mean, the videos make it really, that's a fort, right?
So it's a fort out on an island by itself that was built in the 1800s, I think. It was never actually finished. They thought it would be a stronghold for the U.S. to have this outpost there. And then they just never finished it because it turns out naval warfare wasn't where it was at. And so now it's just this random island out, like I said, 70 miles off the coast. We had to take a ferry. It was a 2.5-hour ferry ride.
Oh, God.
Oh, man. And the water was rough. I have never seen a greener looking group of people than what was on that boat that day.
Were you one of them?
Not really, which is surprising because I do tend to get like a little bit seasick, especially on big boats like that.
Right.
But no, I did fine. I was mostly just tired because the other thing is this excursion sells out. So you have to buy tickets in advance. They only let 200 people on the island a day. You have to buy tickets in advance. Kyle and I booked like 2 months ago, and they were already sold out. So like the week before the trip, I went into a spiral and was just like, how can I get tickets to this thing? So I randomly joined a Key West Facebook group. I had to put a profile picture. I only have a burner Facebook account. I don't use Facebook anymore, but I have an account.
It's a really weird way to put that.
I know. Everybody kind of looks at me weird when I say that, but I don't know how else to describe it.
Right.
Like, it's just sort of this like.
You don't do Facebook, but you need it for certain things.
I need an
like
account.
Logging in.
Exactly.
They really integrate it into our full life cycle, which I find annoying. That's
It's intense. So to join this Facebook group, you have to meet these certain criteria, and one is you have to have a profile picture. Now I can't figure out how to remove my profile picture. I'm afraid people actually will start trying to friend me again. It's gonna be a whole thing. But anyway, so I joined this group and I just put this post up and was like, hey, we're going. Does anybody have 2 tickets they're trying to sell? And nobody was trying to sell them. But somebody did say there's a standby list, and it goes up at 6:15 every day that they're going out to sale. And if you get there in time, put your name on the standby list, and they go in order of who's on the list. So you want to get there early. So Kyle and I got there at 4:50 in the morning and waited until 6:15.
This is like some real commitment, but you made it.
I think if Kyle hadn't been there to push me, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
But he was, because I was feeling guilty. I was like, this is your vacation. And he was like, no, this means a lot to you. Let's do it. So we got there at 4:50. We waited till 6:15, and we were obviously the first people on the list. And one other guy showed up at 6:14. He also ended up on the boat with us because we were the only 4 people on standby that day. We were numbers 179 and 180 out of 200. So they had some extra tickets sitting somewhere. Yeah. I don't know where they came from, but we got them. So we got to go. So for me, being on the boat, I was mostly just really tired.
Sure.
We had also just gotten into Key West the night before. So I was just really exhausted. So I wasn't super seasick like other people around us, but yeah. But it was worth it. It was really cool. And so you can go snorkeling around the island. There are no rules.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what did you do?
They didn't really have boundaries for where you couldn't snorkel, with the exception of the moat wall, which is the video I was just showing you. There's a moat that runs around the island, around the fort. You can't swim in the moat because it's stagnant water. It doesn't look very good. But there was a piece of the wall that had collapsed, and they don't want you snorkeling around there because they're trying to restore it. Oh, exactly. Well, I mean, that's part of it too. But other than that, you can snorkel wherever you want. You can go through the fort. You just walk through and look at things. And they had lunch for us from the ferry. The only rule with the lunch is you can't eat inside the fort. Otherwise, he's like, you can eat in the water, you can eat on the beach, you can eat at the picnic table, like wherever you want.
You can eat it over here. You can eat it over there.
Just not in the fort. And they had the lunch was actually really good. I was kind of expecting like peanut butter and jelly, but it was Jersey Mike's subs.
Oh,
Yeah, like real deal.
yeah.
But it's like an actual national park that I got to go visit out in the middle of nowhere. And it was amazing. It lived up to my expectations. The water was just incredibly blue. It's called Dry Tortugas, and Tortuga means turtle. So I was expecting maybe some turtles or something. I didn't see any. I didn't think the snorkeling was all that great there. So I went snorkeling, but the visibility wasn't great. I think there had been a rainstorm on our way over, which was partly why the water was so choppy. Yeah. So I think maybe it just brought in some lack of clarity. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't think the snorkeling was that great, but the fort was really cool. And on the way back, we ended up talking to a really nice lady from Ohio who was trying to avoid seasickness, and they had told her if she watched the horizon. So she was sitting across from us and just kind of staring behind us. And finally she was like, I'm watching the horizon so I don't throw up. I just don't want you to think I'm staring at you, which led us into talking for 2 hours. And she
now
was
you guys
lovely.
are getting together this weekend. And
We're going to travel together.
Yeah.
No, her and her daughter, she was with her daughter and a friend, and they had just visited all the national parks in Florida because there are like 4 national parks in Florida.
okay. That's reasonable.
So they had just visited them all in one fell swoop.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, but that was really cool. I did do a key lime pie tour.
Wait, official or unofficial?
Unofficial.
This
my
is
own.
Nikki's.
This is my own key lime pie tour. So what I was telling Selena is
There's lots of.
Yeah, I don't know what's
going on.
happening.
Where's our? Okay.
Oh, I couldn't bring it
sounds
back
like
for
a
you.
Nikki's Nibbles.
It melts. I know.
Yeah.
But it didn't fit in
You're
with
not
anything.
busy.
I've also Googled key lime pie day. It's not till September, so now I have to figure out
That's some time.
when I can put together a reel. But I got to try, I think, 3 key lime pies.
Okay. Now, is it too much to go into to say, like, did you have your best key lime pie there, or you want to save that?
I did have my best
have
key
it,
lime
okay.
pie there.
Okay. Well, I guess it would be a real letdown, I guess, if you didn't.
Yeah, I think so. There was one more I really wanted to try, but I told Selena I got a stomach bug at the end of the trip. So on our anniversary, at our anniversary dinner, we had lined it all up. So we went to the restaurant that has presumably the best key lime pie, or like it's a top 2 between this restaurant and another one.
It always is.
But I had to stop eating my dinner early because I did not feel well. And then she didn't offer us dessert, so we didn't ask. So I didn't get to try it there. But I tried it at another place, which was, I think, the best. It had a really tall meringue, which Kyle doesn't care for. He's a more traditionalist. He likes the you do or you don't.
I don't like meringue that much either. I like Italian meringue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like fine. But I'm much more about the crust and the pie filling.
Well, I'm going to show Selena this one.
Oh, that's beautiful though.
So to me, that was the
I can
best.
still appreciate the beauty of it. I mean, that the meringue on that, for those of you who can't see, all of you, is far taller. They could be a little bit of the angle, but it looks like it's far taller than the actual key.
Oh, it is for sure. It is for sure. Mm-hmm. This was Kyle's favorite. Sorry, guys. I wish I could show you these pictures. It's got a beautiful
torched on the top of it too.
This was Kyle's favorite. This was a place called Kermit's. And so that they also had, I don't know if you saw that at the end, it's a chocolate dipped piece of key lime pie. So it is literally a slice of key lime pie dipped in chocolate.
That's
and
fun.
Then they give it to you like a popsicle. That was also really good. So yeah, the key lime pie was delicious.
I like to think that Publix's is pretty solid.
Oh,
because they're a Florida chain.
Oh, that makes sense.
But yeah, I love a good slice of key lime pie. So I'm so happy for you.
Well, the real showstopper of the whole trip. So I got to do my bucket list item, which was dried tortugas. I got to have key lime pie, like 4 slices or 5 slices. They also have everything you've ever wanted flavored key lime. So like we brought the kids back some key lime jelly beans, everything. They have body wash that's key lime pie flavored. I don't know.
Well, that's a choice.
But I had already booked a snorkeling excursion for us on Sunday because I wasn't sure dried tortugas was going to work out. So we took a catamaran like 2 miles out into the ocean where the reef sits off the coast of Key West. And my whole goal in life is to snorkel with as many sea turtles as possible, as you know about me. So part of the promise of this is that sea turtles do live on the reef. You could potentially see them. So we snorkeled out and I was looking around seeing beautiful fish, like aquarium level stuff here.
Oh, nice.
And suddenly I heard my name. And so I popped up and Kyle was like, they saw a sea turtle over here. And so I swam over as fast as I could. And I was like, I don't see a sea turtle.
What if it had been a sea turtle that had said your name?
Oh, that would be amazing.
Wouldn't it though?
So we had a joke that Trevor, my sea turtle from Mexico, sent his cousins out to come visit me.
Right. So, and this is what Kyle's alerting to you to.
So Kyle's alerting me to a sea turtle. So I swim over there. He disappears and I don't see anything. So finally there's a guy swimming there and I was like, hey, did you guys see a sea turtle? And he goes, yeah. I was like, right here, but I can't find it now. He was like, it's buried in some of the seaweed down there. So I looked again and I found him. And he was glorious, and his name is Sandy.
Oh, perfect. I was hoping there was a name.
It was amazing. And so I popped up and told everyone I could that he was there. And so people started coming over, which scared him away. Oh, yeah. But I swam with him a little ways, and I got to see him. But I wanted other people to see him too, because I think everybody wants to see a sea turtle.
Nikki. Like halfway out into the ocean. And you shared it on social media, which was really nice. That was a nice treat for me while I was here with all the rest of the mortals.
Well, it was. That was amazing. And then they took us on this kayak. So this is where I got a little cheesed off because it was a 2-part day. The first part was snorkeling and the second part was kayaking and kayaking the mangroves, which are...
that's fun.
I thought so.
Okay.
They were like, you might be able to see manatee. You could see sea turtles. I swear to you, Selena, the water never got deeper than probably like... 1.5 feet. A manatee cannot swim in 1.5 feet water.
Huge.
They're huge.
Yeah.
I also have snorkeled with manatees.
Yeah.
They can't fit in that water.
That's also been on social media.
So cheesed off. So we didn't see any of that. It was kind of lame. And I was like, man, I would have rather snorkeled this whole day instead of kayaking.
Yeah. It's kind of like, I don't know if you go tubing and it's a drought.
Right. I've done that before in Helen.
Your butt the whole way.
And it hurts. Helen. And you're like, ouch, ouch, ouch.
It looked like I had been in a part of a catastrophe when I got out of that water.
I have only ever been, I've been tubing in Helen probably 6 times. Only one was at full pool.
Broad River, man. That's where you got to go.
Oh, yeah.
Got to go to Broad River.
I don't think I've ever done that one.
Oh, actually, I was kayaking. I don't even know if you can. I guess you could, but it might be a little scary. That's definitely.
I know you can tube down the Chattahoochee in
shoot
like
the hooch.
Yeah. Well, that's what Helen is.
That's true. It's just the upper hooch.
Yeah. My stepdad and I went kayaking. They used to have a kayak outpost in Swanee near the Chattahoochee River. And we did a kayak there that was really fun. But they're not there anymore. But they will let you tube. They'll put you in kind of like the Duluth area and let you float down and then they bring you back up. Anyway, not Key West. Key West. I was telling Selena off air that Key West was not quite what I was expecting it to be. But it's just like a big party town and there's like a lot of drinking and a lot of partying. Duval Street feels.
And what's the average age?
I average maybe like 63, 64.
There's a part of me that like loves it. Like they're just ready to go live their best life. They're retired.
Yeah.
They're just living it up. I mean, if you're retired at 63, good for you.
You really are living it up.
That doesn't happen for everyone. What's the retirement age now? 77
I
or something?
don't know. I stopped checking. I just know when I'm eligible to retire.
Yeah.
But one cool thing that I didn't realize till it was too late is we had walked past Jimmy Buffett's recording studio like 5 times. I had no idea that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just this like totally unassuming white building almost right near where we got on the ferry to go over to Dry Tortugas. But apparently he's recorded there. Zach Brown is recorded there. Like it's a big deal.
Wow,
so
that's neat.
We didn't see anybody famous while we were down there, but
that you know of.
That I
didn't even know you
true.
were at Jimmy Buffett's studio. Maybe he's like low key.
I think the only thing we didn't do that I think we both kind of wished we had more time to do is rent. I looked it up. You can rent a Jeep for like $200 for 24 hours, which I don't think is that bad. You're responsible for filling it up with gas, but I didn't think that was that bad. And you can ride up the highway that connects all the Keys to the mainland of Florida. And I wish we had done that because it does look beautiful, but we just sort of ran out of steam and time. Yeah. Because we were busy all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And then our anniversary, I was sick. And then we came back. So we didn't do that, but that's probably the only thing I would have done differently. The rest of the trip, I mean, we made the most of it. It was really fun.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Welcome home. You've been home a couple days now. So several days.
I have.
Couple
laying in bed.
Yeah. I'm glad that you're feeling better. Especially since you're here. No offense. I've already had some sort of stomach bug this year. Some set, you know? And I also had it on my vacation, you know? So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I do think this is like my 2nd or 3rd stomach bug in a year.
Yeah. You've babies.
Oh my God.
Babies be bringing stuff home.
This time Kyle got it, but I am usually the only adult that gets it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I can't figure out why.
Well, you have
A sense that
yeah, I'm like, everybody needs to hear this.
I
but
do.
Yeah.
I'm a little
so that's
unsettled
probably
most of
why.
the time. But I take my probiotic. I try to get it all set up.
Try to work it out.
Apparently, I'm just making a nice little home for all the viruses.
A wonderful life, if you will.
A wonderful life.
For all of the viruses.
I think that's Selena's not so subtle cue to move on from my stomach and move on to Designing Women Season 4, Episode 22.
We can dig into it if you want to. You just tell me.
No, we cannot.
Wherever you want to go.
I think we've gone as far as I'm comfortable going. So this is called It's a Wonderful Life. Charlene is overcome with feelings of self-doubt after the birth of Olivia, and her highly emotional state has her believing that Bill is having an affair. Air date March 19th, 1990. We're calling this one Big Ol' Mom Blob. Did we decide we're comfortable with that?
Yes.
Perfect. And it's written by Tom Bray and Michael A. Ross. Selena's notes tell me that these writers appear a lot in LBT's universe. Each one of them will write a total of 5 Designing Women episodes, 15 of Evening Shade, and 1 Hearts of Fire episode. So Tom Bray will appear on 1 episode of Hearts of Fire and also produce 37 episodes of Evening Shade. And Michael A. Ross is the actor who played Galen King in season 1 and Stan the car salesman just a few episodes back. Ross remains active with writer-producer credits on more recent shows, including Hot in Cleveland, Santa Clarita Diet, which is one of my favorite shows and ended way too soon.
So good.
And the new Rob Lowe show,
The,
Unstable.
Yep.
I don't know that show.
It's very new.
Do I
Him
know
and
it?
his son.
Maybe I do know it. Anywho, he was also a co-executive producer. I added this one. He's also a co-executive producer on the short-lived 2010-ish show Rules of Engagement.
Yeah.
Love that show.
Yeah.
He was a co-producer.
Okay. All right.
And he was also married to Markie Post, who starred in Hearts of Fire and like a billion other made-for-TV
Night
things.
Court, I think, is
Yes.
her most famous one.
Yeah, she was in a lot. They have 2 daughters, or they had 2 daughters together. Sadly, she passed away in 2021 after a 4-year battle with cancer.
Which I did not know.
I think I did know it, but
there's 2 years in there where my brain it didn't retain all the information. I think it's because there were so many sad things happening.
Yeah.
That like some of them fell out of my brain. So like if I did experience that, I'd experience it again, real time going through that. And I just thought like I just had to. I know that was a lot that I shared in our show notes this time, but like I don't know, like all those connections and all that connective tissue, if you will. I just thought that was really interesting.
It's, I think, an important reminder of how...
You want to say incestuous? Just say it.
No, I was going to say how for a certain generation of us, Linda Bloodworth Thomason may not be a name we recognize. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might not necessarily recognize that name, but she kind of threads through so many things that feel unassuming to me in some ways. I don't know how to articulate that. There are other connections as we're going through this season in particular where certain actors showed up in random places. We just talked about Blue Collar Comedy Tour.
You
they
never know
were
who
related.
you're going to bring together or
Yeah.
what those people are going to do down the line. And I do think there is something fascinating about that. That's why you live every day to your fullest. You do the best that you can do every day because you never know whose life you're going to change.
Is that what it is?
I don't know. What day is it? Who
Thanks,
are you?
Lena. Thanks for that weirdly motivational speech.
Uh-huh.
Am I living every day to its fullest? I don't know.
Sometimes I'm just trying to get by. So that's all right too.
All right. So this one was directed by David Trainer. All right. General reaction, stray observations. What you got in general, Selena?
So I've got one fairly minor general observation, and then I was hoping that we could chat a little more in depth about what's happening with Charlene in this one.
Okay.
So we're rapidly approaching the end of season 4. And I couldn't help but think while watching this one, if Delta Burke was having issues with the cast or others behind the camera this season, like I just wouldn't know it because she is absolutely killing it. She's got the best lines like all season long, and she is just cooking. Mm-hmm. So that was just one thing that was really staying with me. What about for you?
I thought about that actually in our the next episode. I think that we're going to talk about. I was thinking, it really just feels like she's not having issues. Like you just can't tell. I mean, I think that's That's generally a rule in life. You just can't always tell.
Right.
So my most general reaction to this entire episode, which may or may not feed into the next point you wanted to make, which is we had this conversation recently with the bowling episode about the concept of it feeling really obvious sometimes when someone who's not a member of a group writes a storyline about a member of that group, you know. So we were saying like this feels like the way women think men talk when women aren't around. It's not true to men. In this episode, I have to give props to the writers, to Tom and Michael. I've already forgotten their names. Sorry, Tom and Michael. Yeah, to Tom and Michael, because I didn't get that sense at all. And this is coming from someone who's had 2 children and been through postpartum twice. This didn't feel over the top or like anything other than someone who maybe has lived through that with their significant other, which led me to Googling. And I found out that Michael Ross's wife, Marky Post, delivered their second child just a few weeks after this episode aired. And she'd had one a few years prior in 1987. So presumably he had experience to draw from. Bray also had 3 kids, but Googling him felt really invasive. It wasn't like a quick Google, like Michael Ross and Marky Post, it was really clear when they had their babies. But this other guy, I was like, I really feel like I'm digging too far into his personal information. But he had 3 kids and got married in the early 80s. So I'm guessing he was going through this experience at the same time.
Right.
So they were pulling from things that were real, which I think is why it rang true to me.
And on that note, are we okay to have this conversation about Charlene? Yeah, I think on that note, exactly what you're saying there, I actually found this one to be really tough. And you know, Charlene is she's like the light of the show. So I don't want to be like overly dramatic here, but it's kind of my role on the show. But to see that light go out, to see her hurt, it was hard for me. Like we obviously have to watch these a couple of times usually. So, you know, I know Jean Smart's a good actor, but the level of exhaustion that I saw her experiencing, it felt really visceral. And, you know, they were playing her retelling of that awful appointment that she had her first time in the field. I think they said it, but like as a joke, but it just felt real. It felt terrible. It didn't, yes, I could see how it's funny. And like, that's like that thing that I would find funny in like 2 years or something, or at least a week.
Yeah.
I need a week with that one. If I wake up and I've got spots on the front of my shirt and I've been asleep and then I fall down in the lobby and I have to get carried out, like I'm going to need some time to process that. And then I'm going to think it's hilarious. 15 minutes later, I just don't know. So I don't know. Does any of that, how did it land with you?
I think that the genius in writing that into the storyline was for people like me who are a few years removed from experiences like that, who can laugh at it and be like, oh man, that did suck. Because your body does crazy things when you're exhausted. Your body does crazy things when it's healing from delivering babies. And so it all just, in that first month or 2 months, it all just comes together in a horrible way. So it was funny to me, but also very visceral. Like I have not fallen down in a lobby, but
there's still time.
Most of us have experienced, fallen down in a lobby after having kids. I've certainly fallen down in public, completely sober and in very embarrassing ways. So yes, I've done that. But like, because I was so tired and whatever, that hasn't happened. So I haven't lived that explicit experience, but I've lived shades of it that now I can look back on and go, oh man, that was just having kids, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think some of it is like it. So, you know, I don't think I need to tell you all this again, but in case you've tuned in for the first time, season 4, episode, whatever this is, like I don't have children.
22.
Thank you. I'm like, where are we?
I have to keep reminding myself.
But like, I don't have kids, but I've watched people I care about have children. One of them is sitting across the table for me, so I'm not putting this emotion to you specifically, but you know, as an observer, like it seems like the hardest job out there, or one of the hardest ones. And like, I think what we're really dancing around here is, it's peripartum now. They don't really say postpartum. I don't know. I almost went down a rabbit hole and had to jerk myself back. So maybe from your other work in real life, you might know some of that, but like I don't know what the actual terminology is. But anyways, when you have some like emotional things happening to you after a baby, like that's what they're dancing around here. And I think that's what's going on with Charlene, and I think that is very real. And it's like someone who like I'm a very anxious person. I don't know if you know this about me or not, Nikki. But like I think like I felt intense for her, just like seeing that. And like whether I'm seeing someone in real life go through that or whatever it is, it just gets that empathy stirring in me a little bit. I think I'm making myself sound nicer than I am. I'm not that nice, but like it does. It did something to me a little bit. So
I was reading a subreddit post earlier today, actually, of all days, and it was, what are the biggest cons of not having children? And so people who have kids were coming in and sharing like what I think not having kids, what I'd be missing from my life.
Okay.
And one person said, it was a person who didn't have kids, and they said, but they hadn't, they were older in life, and they said it's the feeling of existential dread creeps in on you a lot more because you're not as distracted. You don't have as much to keep you busy. So this feeling of constantly being anxious and constantly worrying about the state of the world and where we're headed, it's a lot more acute for people without kids because you have more time to sit and think. Yeah. And somebody said, no, when you have kids, you do the same thing. You just worry about them now. So it's not you're worried about in the future of the world and what's happening in your life. You're now worried about kids. Yeah. So it's that concept of it's terrible all the way around. You got kids or you don't. We're all struggling with the same things.
Cheers. Yeah.
But I feel you. Watching Charlene, I think you said something a minute ago, like sort of watching the light dim a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's probably.
She radiates. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a lot of people do. And I think back on other friends I have who have had kids, and I'm not talking about you this time, Selena, but yes. But they have kids, and you do go through this phase where it all just dims a little bit. Yeah. You're just tired and you're struggling. You're learning someone new and something new.
That's a fair point. It could be any life struggle.
Yeah.
It kind of dims it out of you.
But yeah, it's tough to watch that. It's tough to watch it from someone who's usually so positive and excited like Charlene is.
Well, or like something else I think that was brewing there. And I think it's just a crappy thing to think about. Like she's not been able to care for herself in quite the same way. So she doesn't feel as good about herself. She feels self-conscious about the weight that she's gained. She thinks Bill's cheating on her. I mean, I just think like all those emotional tones are like dialed up to 11. Obviously that's a big one of it. If you are feeling even if it is from sheer exhaustion and you're just reading things that aren't there, like it doesn't matter. You feel what you feel, I can say that as someone who has woken up before and been like, you left me. It was a dream.
It's a dream.
Yeah. But you left me. You a-hole. And you can't like this, you feel what you feel. But I she has this line. She says, this goes back to the name of the episode. I'll just go upstairs then and talk to Olivia. That's all I'm good for anyway. Just a big old mom blob. I've like talked to moms who have had that experience and felt that way. And, maybe it's just because I think you were alluding to some of this. It's like a major shift in your life and it messes with your identity a little bit. How you've always seen yourself. And so suddenly you're living a very different life. Anyways, I just didn't want to ignore the feelings around this one because, like, it's not all fun and games. Sometimes it's real stuff.
It is. And, one of my general reactions was that they actually alluded to the fact sort of at the end of the episode that Bill is also really tired, which I actually appreciated because I liked that the focus was on Charlene for most of the episode because I think the struggle for mom is just a little bit different than it is for dad. I'm probably never on mic gonna say harder or easier. I'm just gonna say it's different. But dads also are putting a lot out there and they're exhausted, and Bill's working. He's a pilot.
And sometimes you're getting taken to the woodshed by your significant other.
So I appreciated that they did that. And I think that was probably the writer's own personal experience creeping in a little bit themselves.
Sure. That's a good point. Yeah.
But Bill, man, I also have to say about Bill though, his co-pilot telling him his uniform looked good from the back.
That's a little inappropriate.
In what world is that ever appropriate? He said it was an innocent, even in the other women were like, industry. It's an innocent comment. Yeah. I was like, nothing innocent
different
about
times,
that.
Man. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like we're just in different times now. I'm not saying that was ever okay, but like what we the universal we accepted people saying is.
I cannot imagine a world in which a woman tells my husband he looks good from the back in a uniform, and I'm like, that's an innocent comment.
Like just like a weird. It's just we've had this conversation here before. Like, just don't talk about people's bodies.
Just don't talk about bodies,
and
man.
It seems like a really good time.
Or like to say, your uniform is really tailored. It looks, did you get something done to it? If she felt compelled, she had to say something, that probably is safer. Yeah. But also, I just don't understand in what world.
Maybe they just didn't want us to like her.
I don't like her.
They needed like a threatening comment in there to like.
But I also think that it's like a little gaslighty from the rest of the characters to be like, that was an innocent comment. When Charlene's obviously going through something. No, the truth is, in no world would that be appropriate.
Yeah, that's a tough one too, though, because maybe they didn't want to amp it up, except for Suzanne. Yeah. It's like everyone's cheating. But like.
Yeah, she might not be wrong.
Well, maybe not.
The last one I wanted to say generally is that they specified Charlene only took 2 weeks off after the baby was born. Do you remember I went down a rabbit hole trying to figure out how long Jean Smart was off the air? And I never found like a real answer.
Was it 2 weeks?
But I'm thinking it was only like 2 weeks.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I don't think it was very long.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
So
that's great because that's my first stray observation, except it looks more like Charlene only took 2 weeks off after she had a baby. WTF? That's my first stray observation, like, because that's nonsensical.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And
you're not even healed.
No, you're still
like your personage is not.
You're still bleeding for like 3-4 weeks after that.
Sure. Yeah.
If you had a vaginal delivery.
Right.
If you had a C-section, you're probably not even medically cleared to pick up your baby yet.
Right.
Should not be going back to work till you pick up your baby.
Yeah.
I think fortunately with the 2023 lens, things have shifted quite a bit now, and that is not the norm necessarily. But I think we've talked here before about, I've certainly encountered women who, like, especially working in retail, that is normal. That is more normal for them to be back at work within a couple of weeks.
I think I talked about my drama teacher. She was back in 2 weeks, but she had 5 children. I mean, I agree, first of all, but like, I certainly can't imagine it being your first.
Yeah.
And that she was like, whatever, it's fine.
Oh, Lord.
It's no problem. And then she yelled at me.
Was it really okay? I mean, the other thing though is like emotionally, even if physically you feel okay, emotionally, you probably shouldn't be interacting with the world in a professional manner.
Did you see how just me watching this episode affected me? So what we're trying to say is take care of yourself, everyone.
I was telling Carolina recently, because her birthday just passed, and every time her birthday passes, it gets me thinking about the first week she was born. I literally laid in the floor of her bedroom while she was crying, and I cried. And I cried because she was crying. And I cried because she was growing up so fast. And I cried because she was growing up so slow. And I cried because she was going to be graduating high school next week. Like all the things.
And if we're not careful,
you'll
be crying.
I'll be crying again.
Yeah.
But that was within 1 week of her being born. That went on for months, that emotional roller coaster. And then I got pregnant again when she was 6 months old. And so my hormones were not stable for years. I'm not confident they're stable now.
That's okay. We'll take you anywhere you are. Same, just in a different kind of way. I have one more stray, which is that I found the uneasy juxtaposition between one's vision for something and the way you think it's going to go and the reality of something to be really relatable, which is like this idea of Mary Jo and Julia like trying to like fix things for them and put together this like lovely dinner. So this perfect evening is like described. Now this is some in cut lines, but as a chauffeured car and a candlelit dinner and one perfect rose. But in reality, they're hauling a gigantic ice chest up 15 flights of stairs, have forgotten the silverware down at the bottom, and Anthony's like puking in a corner. And that's the reality. Also,
my anniversary trip.
Right. Happy anniversary. I was rewatching it this morning, and I just wanted to say that, like, I think it's really nice what they did, but, like, why would you stay? Why wouldn't you set up the dinner? I know it's for comic effect, okay? Yeah. But let's just take a step back and go to reality. Like, wouldn't you leave? Well, would you set up a romantic dinner and then be like, "We'll watch you"? It was a very small
table, so they had to have their plates interchanged throughout the meal.
Uh-huh. let's just sit here and watch you. Like,
my favorite stray of the episode was that this rooftop garden that Charlene, speaking of like how you expect something to be and how it plays out, the rooftop garden was really a couple of flower pots with sticks in it. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
There were no flowers.
they hadn't, we hadn't yet entered the Instagrammable rooftop garden era that we're
But
in
like
now.
I expected some flowers, not
Yeah.
sticks.
I mean, the fact that it wasn't like clearly also still in Sugarbakers
Yeah.
was kind of amazing.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
The other stray that I had was
Yeah.
that now that you've brought up dubbing from the wedding episode, all I could see was Anthony dubbed over the singing. I couldn't unsee it.
Oh,
I barely noticed it with Julia, or if I noticed it, it just like moved through my head.
right.
Now I can't unsee it with Anthony.
Sorry about that.
Thanks for ruining the magic.
I know. I'm so sorry. With the backdrop of the city that's like painted like that morning. Yeah.
I had a couple of cut lines. You just mentioned one that was, their vision of how the night was going to be. Suzanne did know about the spot on Charlene's jacket. And they were like, well, you should have told her. And she was like, she said it's not very attractive. And then Julia, I think, said, well, Suzanne, you should have just told her. I'm sure Charlene didn't know. She hasn't had a good night's sleep in 2 months. She's completely exhausted. So I feel like that just sort of underscored how tired Charlene was.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
And then, there's one other thing. When Charlene talked about the Dunwoody Hotel, the script website that we follow called it the Dinwiddie Hotel. And it just made me laugh.
That's funny.
Dinwiddie.
So that's obviously their favorite spot.
Yes,
Dinwiddie.
of course.
Mhm.
So that was my last stray.
That's funny. Want to talk about some things that we liked?
Yes. I really liked the last scene where Charlene is snuggling Olivia. I thought it was a really nice way to tie up the episode. And then I think it may have been a callback to an earlier episode when they were dating. They were sitting at the fire, kind of like canoodling.
Thing. Yeah, I thought the same thing because you get that shot of their socks or
Yeah.
something.
So
I teared up a little bit there.
Yeah,
because I do think
very
there
sweet.
is something. It's just it's beautiful. Again, this is like one of those areas where I feel like I'm a little bit out of my depth, but it's like this idea that like I don't know, parenthood's beautiful. Like
building a family together.
Well,
it's building a future.
doing something like really big together. And so him just sitting there and like the love on his face, the admiration, like he doesn't want to be up on a rooftop with no garden. He wants to be having a lovely meal. He wants to be able to be there in the home that they've built together and just watching his wife and baby because that's the biggest deal for him right now.
It was beautiful.
I thought that was pretty sweet.
It was lovely.
So my likes, I think you could cull all of mine together into Suzanne's hot takes across this episode, or things that I liked. So she has the hot take on breastfeeding. So I wrote down these. Well, I didn't write them down, but her lines here were really funny. Well, I don't know why Charlene insists on nursing this baby. It's like some kind of epidemic. Everywhere I go, any time of the day or night, I see these women whipping themselves out and acting like public refilling stations. I mean, they act like just because there's a baby attached, it's not a breast anymore. Could you see me unleashing one of these outdoors? All hell will break loose.
I felt very strongly about that.
She sure did. It is definitely a hot take to see that in 2023, but I still thought it was really funny. She also had some hot take dating advice for Mary Jo. You know what you need, Mary Jo? A gun. You wouldn't believe the hassle it saves. You pull a gun on a date, sets the tone for the whole evening. I guarantee he won't ask you out again. She just full of all the advice.
I died laughing when she slapped the NRA sticker on the door of Charlene's
It's just such a perfect setup. This morning I thought about that and I was like, I wonder if something was going on, like some kind of like campaign or something that was under one of their skins, like one of the writers or something where they're like, oh, cool. And then they were like using Suzanne as a little bit of a vehicle again for that kind of whatever. I also like it. I had that as one of my likes, but also her bedtime story. All the rich men trying to get with her was pretty great.
So actually on that note, on the first watch, when Suzanne called the women to tell them that Olivia said her first word and they were like, what is it? What is it? On the rooftop. I thought they were talking gibberish. I didn't realize it was a callback to one of the rich men.
That's right.
Until I started looking into my references. It was John Kluge.
Right. Who I thought, like, I'm sorry, I don't have a catalog of all of the richest men in America anywhere. And so this whole time I kept thinking it was Kluge.
Oh.
That was me trying to be fancy. But it's Kluge.
It's Kluge.
It sounds more Southern if you ask me. And then I have one more and I don't want to hear all about it anymore that you have to share. But is the struggle over the baby monitor between Suzanne on one side trying to listen to Bill and Charlene with Mary Jo, and they're like running interference. I liked it when Mary Jo and Julia sit down on the couch. They're like throwing it under the pillows. Because if anybody hasn't watched it in a while or whatever, like it's broken, so they can't turn it off. So they're just trying to squash the noise. And she points at Suzanne, like it's just very like, don't you dare come over here. I don't know. The whole thing was I thought it was really good. I liked it.
Like Anthony's retelling of the gas station food was like physical humor / just delivery in that same vein that I thought was perfect. I just loved every line. I love the way he delivered it.
Well, it's like you've been to that gas station.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're like, yes, the one off of. You know.
Everything about it I laughed out loud every time I watched this episode.
And you don't make good decisions when you're hungry.
No,
I would totally eat beef stroganoff out of a vending machine. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
I'm coming off a stomach bug.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. You know, I almost didn't even put in our document like something about food the other day. Because I was like, for y'all, I had asked her how she feels about olives. And I was like, man, if olives makes her queasy.
I don't feel good about anything for like 5 days.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's cool.
Sorry. Yeah, it's so good.
It's cool. Speaking of things we don't like.
Look at you.
What didn't you like in this episode?
Well, so it's funny that you said like now you can't get the dub thing out of your head because I said something reversal of that.
Uh-oh.
Several episodes ago, you talked about Bill's overly flowery language, like rubbing you the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And so when he said like Charlene is the fantasy, I was just like, that's like a little much.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It also feels a little bit like, I'm sorry, did someone like pull you out of the classroom or something and give you some tips? That is TIP as in Paul S on like how to like butter up a woman. That's kind of what it sounds like a little bit. What about you?
I didn't like their fight. It was really uncomfortable for
me. It was very uncomfortable. How do you think they felt?
I think most especially when Bill held her hormones against her and he was like, you're just like a hormonal monster or something. I can't remember his exact line, but at the very end of the fight when he goes charging out, he said that. Oh, that was horrible. It was horrible. It's real. I think that's a real fight people have had, but it's just mean.
Or just that idea that like, this is not a didn't like, but Suzanne just knowing that she was about to lay into him. Oh. It's just funny. If you've been in a relationship long enough, you just kind of know what's happening next. Yeah. And you're like, oh, and this is why this might be, this is very heterosexual centric here for a second. So excuse me. Much like the show. But if you take this idea of like, men just suddenly becoming scared about things. It's like this kind of thing where you're like, you want to just talk for a second? It is a little bit of bait and switch.
I don't know though. Yeah, I don't think he was, I don't think he knew what was about to happen.
He was not prepared at all. Yeah,
he really thought they were going to have a beautiful Olivia moment.
I don't think Charlene's taken him to the woodshed many times.
That might be true. So that might be true.
You ready to rate this sucker?
I'm ready.
What you got?
My rating scale is lab rats on a date.
I like it. Yeah.
I'm going to give it. So initially I gave it 5 out of 5, but I looked at it again one more time and I was like, maybe that seems excessive. So 4.75 out of 5.
Okay. I almost lost my coffee on that. I like your exactitude,
So I thought this episode was really well done. For me, it, like we've talked about at length, it felt really personal, but it was also heartfelt and funny and sensitive and all the things. So I thought it was really, really well done.
I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 lucrative bedtime stories, which are really the ones that I want.
Those are the only ones that I want.
That's right. I want everything to be lucrative. I thought the writing in this one stayed true to the characters, but it felt fresh. maybe this is coming back to it being some new writers. I don't know. Who knows what seeded in my brain as I was doing this. But I really like the pacing as well. It feels like we spent the right amount of time in all the right places, which is something that is a bit hit or miss with designing women for me sometimes. I realize not for everyone, but for me. And even though this one was a little hard for me to watch, because this felt so real to me, I also think it was important, especially at this time period when we haven't quite named that postpartum puppy yet, to shine a light on that and how serious that can be, but like make it light enough that it's still digestible. So I thought that was really nice and important. Do we want to talk about some 90s things?
I have two. Julia's mystification around the baby monitor. She was just like enthralled with it. Imagine how she'd feel today with cameras.
I know. Well,
she wouldn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then levelers on the windows. That's what Charlene went to talk to the client about. It felt like a really blatant call out to the brand name, but I looked into it and I can't figure out why it was so specific. They're just blinds, like window blinds. I don't know why they called that out specifically. I don't know if that was like the creme de la creme back in the day. They sell them at Home Depot now, I think.
Well, you know what's funny is like I read somewhere recently that like, or maybe we talked about this in the Steel Magnolias episode, this idea that like Southerners, we don't just say a thing, we say the brand.
Oh, I don't think we've talked about that.
Oh, okay.
Tell me this theory.
So this is like, why don't you go get something out of the Frigidaire?
Oh,
like, you know, and so, or like calling everything Coca-Cola, like these kinds of things. And so I wonder if maybe that was an unintentional hat tip towards that. I don't know. Or maybe just trying to be like, again, like trying to bring that level of thought to like, oh, we're a design firm.
Yeah,
so clearly
maybe.
we wouldn't call the brand out. So I don't know.
Anyway, window blinds and like an extensive conversation with your interior designer about them felt 90s in some way, or at least dated.
Yeah, I like that. Do you have other 90s things? So just one more, which is Suzanne flipping through a magazine, which leads me into the Southern category, which was her looking for a gun rack in said magazine. I realize people outside of the South have gun racks. I'm just saying. Felt Southern. What Southern things did you have?
Dunwoody is a town, a city outside of Atlanta. And then the statement getting taken to the woodshed. That feels
good.
Southern.
It does.
I probably should have Googled that.
I said it 8 times and I didn't even have it in my Southern category.
Well,
sometimes things just sound Southern. That's okay. I do it
Southern.
all the time. I never look. It's fine. I look into other ridiculous things. So on the note of the Dunwoody Hotel, though, it got me thinking because this is where they had their first date or whatever. And I was like, man, I know we've talked about this. And so I looked back through some painstakingly, I might add, through some old things. And it's the old Ritz-Carlton that we talked about at some point. And they tore that one down and it was in Dunwoody. So it was a real place. Again, just talking about actually bringing some details into this.
So they
show.
tore down the old Ritz-Carlton used to be the Dunwoody Hotel?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's one and the same.
Okay, got it.
I think, until someone wants to tell me that I'm wrong, but that was what was in the notes. And I'm sorry. I wasn't going to do any more digging than that because I remember it went down like 8, and by it, I mean me, went down like 8 rabbit holes. I ain't doing that again. References we want to talk about?
The rich people, the Bass family from Texas. I found a Forbes article that said the brothers Sid, Edward, Robert, and Lee each inherited $2.8 million from their oil tycoon uncle when he died.
Each.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes it sound like a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Since then, they've invested their funds and obviously grown their wealth a little bit. So in 2017, they sold oil and gas interests to ExxonMobil for $5.6 billion in stock. They were number 20 on Forbes' most wealthy families list in 2020.
Yeah, it's funny because like my thought when we obviously read the same Forbes article, but my thought was like how much more interesting that would have been to Suzanne. Maybe there would have been more than just facial detection when one of the brothers went to kiss her in her bedtime story.
Yeah.
They also have steaks and Bluebell ice cream.
Oh, good for them.
And I just figured I mentioned
homemade ice cream.
that's Southern. It's Texan, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, I like ice cream. You like ice cream. I thought I'd mention it.
The ice cream on the cake.
Right. Or in the cake. Or under the cake. Or in my bed. Where I have my ice cream sometimes.
And then John Kluge was that reference we just talked about. He's a rich guy. At one point, he was the richest in America.
He lost that title to Bill Gates 3 years later. And I thought it would have been real fun to hear her talk about Bill Gates. I wonder if maybe he'll get a mention later on. Again, like I have watched Designing Women many times, but I've never watched it at this level. So I wouldn't know that. I also thought it would be funny because like just connecting it back to Suzanne's bedtime story. I think one of the reasons she was the most interested in him is because he was already like 103 then, but he actually wound up living until 2010. So the
Joke's on her.
Yeah, joke's on her. Sorry, I know this is a real person's life. He was
John.
fine. I had one more, which is Charlene calls Bill Mr. Top Buns when she's mad at him. So first of all, that's just funny, but also it's a nice little Top Gun reference.
Oh, you know what? I thought she called him Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Buns, which goes back to the lady's comment about
Got it.
how nice he looks in his uniform from behind.
I get it now.
Yep.
Just took a little while.
Well, that's all right. That was all of my references.
All right. So next episode, season 4, episode 23, Suzanne goes looking for a friend. We'd love everyone to follow along with us and engage. Instagram and Facebook at Sweet Tea and TV. TikTok at Sweet Tea TV Pod. You can search for us on YouTube, Sweet Tea TV, or if you want to use our username, it's at Sweet Tea TV 7371. Our email address is sweetteatvpod@gmail.com, and our website is www.sweetteatv.com. You can find all of our show notes there and additional ways to support the show. And come back Thursday for Extra Sugar, where we're going to talk about...
We're going to talk about Michelin star restaurants with a focus on the South.
All right.
Well, you know what that means.
What does it mean, Selena?
It means that everyone has such a nice frame from behind.
And we'll see you around the bend.
That's right.
Bye.